I was born in a house on Mill Street, which is just opposite the entrance to the assembly rooms, and is now 55 Mill Street, a sort of antique centre, so that's where I was born.
My first home in Ludlow was on Gravel Hill, when my parents moved to, after several years of living out in Berkshire in Herefordshire.
My first home, well, is my current home, which is a lovely old Victorian house with amazing views, both north and south, very spoilt really, and it's kind of in town but not in town, so you get the quietness and the remoteness of sort of living in a sort of rural area without sort of the inconvenience of having to get in your car to go everywhere. So it's a fantastic house and I'm very happy living there.
And it's quite small and it's very nice and lovely.
Hi, I'm Wendy Kirby. We own the Castle Lodge Buttery in Ludlow and I've lived here all my life. I do the baking.
First home, that would have been my grandparents' home. I was there for a year when I was born, and that was my grandfather, who was third generation here in Bodnams. And after that, the family moved into Dinham. Interesting house there with wattle and daub, still built into the walls. So we've got a lot of history in our own home, and we've got a lot of history here at Bodnams.
We have a big garden. It's very nice because you can relax out all day. Our one's quite small, very nice, and like I say, quite small. But we've got a big garden, like Amelia said.
It was a tied cottage, so we lived there till I was 14, and then we moved up to Rocks Green because my dad worked on the farm, worked for Goffs, and then I lived up Rocks Green till I got married. Yeah.
I was born in the East Hamlet Hospital, which used to be the old workhouse, and I lived in Bell Lane, 2 up and 1 down. A family of 8 of us lived there, and I'm the grandson of William Lloyd, who was known as the lamplighter.
Well, it's very nice and it's cosy and it's very home-like.
My first home in Ludlow was number 46 Dinham, which is a little cottage just opposite the Millennium Green, which was actually a 4-bedroom cottage, believe it or not. They were quite small bedrooms, and the kitchen was actually carved out of the rock below Ludlow Castle.
The butter buns, which obviously I'm hoping to start making some as well, because they don't seem to be so many around here now, so we shall have to see.
Well, my favourite food in Ludlow, you are talking to me on the first day of the May Fair. So my favourite food in Ludlow right now is the donuts you can buy directly from the chap around the corner.
Fish and chips, probably.
Why?
Because they're fish and chippy. I don't know. I love loads of foods. It's hard to have a specific one. I like steak and sweets. Of course, steak stuffed with sweets. I like all types of sweets, basically. That's it. Mine's basically sweet. Okay, curry and roast dinners.
Crikey, that's a question and a half. My favourite Ludlow food. Well, at this time of year, I do really enjoy asparagus. And possibly you wouldn't say that's Ludlow, but it's certainly grown not far from here.
There is a multiple of things Ludlow's famous for.
To me, the one thing that says May food in Ludlow is the fairground donut.
Ice cream with sweeties on top.
Do you think that's why everyone gets on the coaches to come here?
Yeah.
They've seen the advert in the local travel agent. Go to Ludlow and eat ice cream with sweeties on top.
Yummy.
Favourite food? I think a meal out at the Queen's.
It's a market town. Just it's the centre of South Shropshire. It has been for centuries, and it was recognised by the castle being built to govern Wales for a short period.
Well, it's famous for its big markets and food festival, like Ludlow Fringe Festival, Ludlow Food Festival, and it's famous for its markets as well, so yeah.
I think what Ludlow's taught me is that actually the things that taste best are the things that are grown local and are seasonal.
I think basically it is for being a traditional old market town, still with some independent shops in it, and its buildings.
Ludlow is famous for, like, if you visit here, you just always would love to look around Ludlow Castle, especially the shops, like the markets. It's all handmade.
I think the main thrust of the place in terms of food is that we are still very fortunate in that we have independent food shops and a thriving market.
And of course we've got our rocks that are world famous.
Yeah.
But I also think it's famous for the people that live here, because hopefully people see us as a fairly friendly bunch.
Mum's always lived in Ludlow, and her mother before that, and I think before that as well. So it's just my dad that came when he was 19. He's Hungarian. He came over in the Hungarian uprising. When he came over, he was given an ABC book to learn English because he didn't know a word of it. And he always worked when he was here as well. He started up his own business, so yeah, he's made a good life here.
Ludlow is nice and calm and not that noisy, and not that busy, and strangers will like it because it's calm and cosy and warm.
At one point, it was just people were born and they just lived in Ludlow. And in the last sort of 2 decades, there's been a movement of people to the town, as has happened all over the country, with people moving from other parts of the country. And I think that has been one of the biggest changes that's occurred to Ludlow.
I wanted to live in a town a similar size to the town I was brought up in, which was about 10,000 people, which is about what Ludlow is. So you kind of get a sense of a place. It still has its own strong identity, but it's not too big that you don't really feel like you belong, and it's not too small that you know everybody.
I moved to Ludlow because I had, after the best part of 10 years, grown slightly tired of London, but not tired of life.
Ludlow is a nice, peaceful place, especially you can hang out and go to the little market, especially if they're independent shops. Especially for strangers, they don't know what to do here, so you can say, oh, you can go to the Ludlow Castle, or look around the shops, or go to the cafe.
I moved to Ludlow because my family was pretty much born and bred here. So here in Ludlow I'm now 5th generation of Bodnams, and my great-great-grandfather, came off the hills. He was part of a farming family, needed to find obviously another job because the oldest in the family would take the farm. 3 drapers came out of that family of 8 children.
Newcomers tend to be sort of observed with a little bit of suspicion for a while, just to see what they're going to get up to.
Ludlow is a town which supports kind of different communities. There is a difference, there's a divide almost, you could say. There's people that have lived here many years and tend to sort of retain their community and stay friends with that community. But then there's another community which is, I suppose, typical sort of incomers.
The people I know of the market, first of all, I just start building this company, and I feel very, it feels very familiar when I'm on the market, so it feels like I know a lot of people now, even if I don't really know them. And I don't know, the sceneries around, mountains, the hills, just very nice. And yeah, it reminds me of home, and it's very nice.
The most surprising thing I saw in Ludlow was I went to the cash machine to get some money out, and there were people queuing, all dressed in chainmail and suits of armour. And there was something slightly incongruous about seeing knights taking money out of a cash machine, but it was medieval festival weekend, so I suppose we should have expected it.
This is where, well, I don't know, this is where you just feel, I feel comfortable. This is home, yeah, definitely. Family's here. Family's been here for hundreds of years, so it's home. People come here because Ludlow is different, because we still have independent shops, because you can have a friendly chat with your greengrocer who might knock a bit off a bag of spuds or chuck in something a bit extra, or your dog will go into the butcher's and get a bone, and that's not romantic, that's just what happens.
Well, I think it's quite old-fashioned here, because as I say, we do sort of all mix together, and there's lots of societies, lots of organisations that have been going for years. People who move in join them, and it's very sort of friendly. And because it's a small sort of town, you know, you just walk through the town and you're bound to meet somebody you know and say hello to.
Grab an ice cream or hot chocolate and then walk to the parks and you can play around in the park with your children, and especially to the adults, you can just watch the river and ducks quacking by you.
And biting your fingers. That's what happened with me.
I suppose surprising in a good way, insofar as when we first arrived, it was this sense of friendliness, that people did talk to one another, and actually having lived, you know, in big cities most of my life, that sort of anonymity was great, but actually you lost that sense of community.
I love it when it comes alive with the festivals, any sort of festival. It's a shame the Shakespeare one's gone, because I think that one was amazing. Atmosphere was fantastic with that. So yeah, the town just fills up and there's lots of people about, and you learn things from them as well, little ideas of things. So yeah, that's good fun.
I would say is the ability of people to carry on in adverse conditions. Through the wars, we've battled on, and we've not given up. And Ludlow doesn't give up. And so, for that reason, I think we're a growing community, continually changing and creating. And as long as we can keep doing that, we can probably stand the test of time against the internet and still attract people to come in to this town that's vibey, interesting, and ever growing.
It's an old town where individual shops shouldn't have all these chain stores in, unless we'll be the same as other towns.
Ludlow has houses next to each other, and you can just live next door to your family, and it's just nicer. But if you have, in the cities, you have stacked up, so you have to go all the way up a long stairs, but it's not very nice that way. But you can just walk over, go through their door and just have fun with them, so it's more nicer environment here.
I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I really like being in Ludlow, just like the sort of vibe and the people, yeah, and the way of life.
Rapidly, within the last 10 years, there's been a huge change in the Ludlow community. It's still very much a local town where local people live and have lived for generations. It's very much a functioning, working market town. It's not a chocolate box kind of Cotswold town. But over the last few years, a lot more people have been moving into Ludlow, probably helped by the fact that so many more people now can work digitally, and it's made Ludlow a more interesting and, dare I say it, slightly more liberal place to live.
I worked overseas an awful lot, working for Ed Walters. They were clothing manufacturers. We had factories all over the Eastern Bloc countries, and I was out there on one visit, and when you're flicking through the television in the evening to see if there's any English programmes on. There was one that was in Slovak, but it was the Ludlow Food Festival that was on. I got up the following morning and turned to BBC News round the world, and it was mentioning about the Ludlow races the following morning, and this was just one trip. But when you're there, and when I used to come back, the first thing I always used to do was get in the car and drive to the top of Wycliffe and have a walk round. Every time.
Amazing, because they used to have a programme and half the kids of the town would be there, and then one weekend ITV started broadcasting children's programmes on a Saturday morning, and 3 weeks later they finished showing the films because nobody was going to the cinema on a Saturday morning.
There's a very artistic alternative side to the town. There's pretty much something for everyone here if you look hard enough for it. From the outside looking in, it may not seem like a very open-minded kind of place, but from my point of view, living, working in the middle of town, it really is quite an exciting place to be at the moment, and continues to be so.
I don't know, it's just got busier, I suppose, Ludlow, which I love anyway. I think it's good to have people coming into town to see our town.
I had the choice of do I move away or stay, and it's on those reflections that you actually see the town for what it is. You look up rather than just looking down, and you look behind the doors, and you look at the people and what you're going to leave behind, whereas every day we think, right, we pass the butchers, past the bakers, and it's just things we do every day, but you don't actually understand them, about asking yourself, am I going to miss this? And yes, I'd miss it, because it's a beautiful way of life to be a part of. We've still got traditions that I don't want to let go. I want to be a modern shop, but I want the community to exist and interact, and I believe Ludlow has such a potential to continue that.
Ludlow sausage. Definitely Ludlow sausage. Ludlow sausage. Ludlow sausage. Ludlow sausage. That's pretty much all it's famous for. Yeah. That's not no, not just feed-wise. Pretty much. That's the most famous thing.
You can sit up on Wycliffe and you can just look, as I say, over the town, and then you can come down a little bit to the little church, Ludford, where there's the cemeteries, and you can sit in that little cemetery, Ludford Park there, because we got family there, and you can just sit and it's quiet and peaceful.
Swim in the river, not only on warm days like today, and otherwise sit by the green. Mine is also paddling and sitting and having lunch.
It weaves its magic, I think, on everybody who comes here. My father he was born in Cumbria, and he lived in Preston for a long time. So he met my mother when he was stationed here during the war. My mum went to Preston for 2 years, hated every second of it. And they moved back here in 1945, and he said it was the best thing he ever did in his life. And he loved Ludlow. I have a cousin who lives in America, and as soon as he gets home, he wants to go to the top of Wycliffe to see the view, because that's his memory of Ludlow.
We're lucky to live where we do, because our back garden's one of our favourite places, because we can sit in the garden and we've got a view of Brownclea and Clee Hill. So that's one of my favourite places as well. And a modern favourite place is the brewery.
Well, yeah.
Which has turned into a really good meeting place.
Yes.
Again, you know,
That's really the hub of the community.
it is. It's turned
It is,
into a hub.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
I like Wycliffe. I like going up Wycliffe and getting that fantastic panorama of the town. I think that's one of the nicest views in the whole of the United Kingdom, certainly in England.
I've married a Ludlow girl, and I've got children who are born in Shrewsbury and who go to school here, so I'm definitely a Ludlow person, albeit a new one.
I love it here because, as I said, people know each other, and we can be loud and friendly, and there's always people here for you if you need any help.
There have been changes. I'm glad to say Ludlow seems to still settle back to its independence. Although we're seeing the international the national shops coming into Ludlow, there's a strong independent sense that people enjoy Ludlow for that very reason. And there's more traffic, unfortunately, but we have to live with that.
Lud, and then the low. Or low, then lud.
Yeah, it does feel like home. Yeah, definitely. I've been here, I think 14 years this autumn, so that's the longest I've lived anywhere.
I think what we've always liked about the Ludlow community is the mix of people who've been here a long time and then people who've moved here. And because it's such a pretty town, people choose to come here. You know, a lot of people retire here or are looking for a place to bring up kids, and they move here because it's such a great place to live. And so I think you get maybe a more interesting range of people than you would do in some small towns.
It's us, the local. We have to do our best to encourage people to keep coming buying from us instead to go there. This is how I see it.
The biggest change I've seen in Ludlow would be obviously the town hall coming down in 1986, and Tesco's arriving when they took the old cattle market down, and it was a bit of an eyesore, so it has tidied that area up a lot. And that was only in the late 1990s, and I'm not sure the Tesco's opened in 2000, but it was around about that time. But those are the biggest changes I've seen.
But I do like some of the shops and the cafes. They're fun to go to, and Ludlow itself, because that way it's everything.
It's a beautiful place to live in. It's reasonably quiet apart from when we have events on, but without the events then Ludlow wouldn't be as famous as it is today, because lots of people come from in fact for the food festival they come from all over the world.
What words would I use to talk about? I would almost go very poetical, say enchanted. It's enchanted, magical, but it's just a warm, friendly place. A warm, friendly place to be. Feel very content, feel very safe. Yeah, I think, yeah.
We're putting porcelain casting slip into the jugs, so we're giving all the kids a different door handle to cast. So there's 19 designs, so we've got 10 children there just doing different designs.
It's beautiful. It looks like fresh cream, doesn't it?
It does. It is quite beautiful, and it's nice to put your fingers in, so the kids have had a good play in it.
Not surprised. Describe what you've just been doing then.
We've been making doorknobs. You get the mould and you pour the split into it, and then you wait for it to dry, and then you pour it out, and then you put it on the rack.
And do you know which ones are going to be your door handles?
Yeah, because we wrote down our numbers on a sheet of paper.
What about you? What are you enjoying?
I'm really excited to see what my doorknob's going to be like.
So you don't know what design you've made yet?
But they're going to the Ludlow Fringe Festival, so then you can see them there. You pour the porcelain in the thing, in your mould, and you pour it back out and then leave it on the rack. And I'm not sure what happens next because I forgot, but yeah.
What a fun way to spend an afternoon. What have you enjoyed most?
Having time off lessons.
That is so naughty. Actually, this is a lesson, isn't it?
Well, but it's fun. It's better than maths.
Okay, so the ones that we cast on the first round, you can pick up. So just pick up one piece each. So all I'm going to do, because remember it's a 3-part mould, so we're going to just turn it over, and I'm just going to take the 2 rubber bands off the pieces. No, if you just wait a second, and then you can do it all together in a minute. And I'm just going to, basically you need to make sure the number is facing upwards. Okay, that's the first thing. And what we're going to do is we're just going to lift off the top of the plaster mould, okay? So you just want to leave it on its side in the mould to let it dry a little bit more. But basically that's it. That's how you make your door handle. Have a go. See what you've got.
This is cool. Oh, yes, I got the one I wanted. Oh, look at that. I got the one I wanted.
When they're soft, obviously when you just cast them, they've still got a lot of water in them. And what happens over the next sort of 24 hours, that water will dry out, evaporate out of the clay, which will make them go a bit smaller. Yeah. But then when you put them in the kiln, that happens again, and they really shrink. So if you look at this piece, look, and then you look at that one, look at the difference in size.
Mine's massive.
It's quite a lot smaller, isn't it?
Mine's massive.
It is. Well, it will still shrink though by quite.
Come and show me which is yours.
I've got one of the ones that's patterned with the stripes going down it, and then one of the diamond ones.
How beautiful. Are you pleased with your work?
Yeah.
Which one did you make?
I also had a diamond one like Jonah, and then I had another one that was kind of shaped like a light bulb.
Has it made you start to look at door handles as you go down the street? Have you stopped to look now?
Well, I might now, but I haven't before.
Opens up a whole new world, doesn't it?
Yeah, of doorknobs. Yeah.
Exactly.